raised in this country to China, you can no longer do business here.
Why, hello there, how y'all doing? So go back and watch his video, Will's video. It's very informative. And I had seen some of his videos prior to November 5th and Guy Fawkes Day. And he had, shown where he had tried to reach out to rural America, especially to the farmers, to say, hey, remember this is what happened. And if we have a repeat, the chances are that it will be devastating again to farmers. We know the way that most of them voted on us, because as much as we hate to say it, their racism outweighed their common sense. And here we are again now with China-USA Tariff War Part 2. So in that clip, you heard when it said that the 3 largest soybean distributors from the United States that had licenses to sell in China were informed by the Chinese government that you no longer do business here, your licenses have been cancelled. So you will have surplus, which of course will drive down prices. Now, back in 2018, when we had this first debacle, China gave the United States a finger and they purchased their row crops from Brazil. At that time, Brazil's exports to China were at about 13%. Now it's at 43%. So they have actually solidified the way they do business. So chances are, with what has happened here, the United States might not be able to recover that relationship when it comes to our soybean farmers. And they had barely recovered from the 2018-2019 mess to where we are now. And unfortunately, there might not be any bailout money because those in charge do not care about regular Joe people. Corporate farms, oh yeah, they'll help them out. But regular people, no, they won't. If they help them at all. So they might end up losing their farms. Really and truly hope not, but that's the way it might go. If something is not done to fix the problem, a problem that they helped to create on themselves. But I digress. Anyway, so back in 2018 when all of this happened and we had the surplus, where was the pressure release valve? Oh, that's right. Our trade envoy ran to the EU. And the EU purchased some of that surplus so that instead of us having $153.8 billion in losses, because that was a trade deficit, let me correct myself. It was about 87 billion of that is dealing with poultry, meats, etc., from here to China. They were able to lower it, so that's how come we ended up only bailing out the farmers to about the tune of $45 billion. Since the whole world, including uninhabited islands, have been hit by these arbitrary, whoever Keystone Cops people came up with these tariff numbers, which is absolute garbage, the EU is like, nah, we ain't doing it either. So what's going to happen to all of that? The prices are going to go down, and those farmers are going to lose, unfortunately. Find out of FAFO. Anyway, what's also, because our Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, was complaining about the fact that Brazil signed an agreement with China. You can crap on people just so long and then they say enough. And that is what our country needs to understand. We're operating from a place as if we are invincible and that we don't need anyone and that we can crap on people and we need to do better. Well, the leadership needs to do better. Not on them. But unfortunately, the population will suffer. So what also happened now with Brazil signing that agreement and their trading has increased? Brazil also signed an agreement with the EU. And not just Brazil, most of the countries in South America to create the world's largest free trade zone. That was done about 13 days before this administration was inaugurated. What that has done, it has cut the United States out. We are slowly but surely making ourselves irrelevant. These moves are not helping us. They're hurting us. They're hurting the nation as a whole. The short-term gains with the gains that have been made with the stock prices that have benefited the top 1% ultimately is going to cost them as well as us. They're just thinking short-term gains and they can pad their pockets and everything else. But if we slide into irrelevancy, they also lose because the countries are going back. We're done. If they can create those kind of zones and leave us out of it, they will find a way to cut out the rest of the things from the United States. And we need to wake up.
Hey guys, it's Will, and I'm here at the Mushroom House at the farm. And I got to be honest with you right up front. There's no way to make this video without it sounding like an I told you so video. And I apologize for that ahead of time, but the truth is it's got to be told. Many of you remember before the election, I did several videos where I tried to speak to rural America, particularly farmers and ranchers, to talk to them about the ramifications of a second term for Donald Trump. And in several of those videos, I talked about the fact that if we were to elect Donald Trump and he were to impose a second round of tariffs on China, the results would be devastating. And if you think hard about it, you'll remember what we talked about. Number one, we talked about the fact that China wasn't prepared for the tariffs in the first Trump administration. They had a disease going through their hog population. They didn't have good stocks of row crops. So they were caught off guard. And they had to continue to buy some American pork and some American row crop products in order to survive the tariffs, especially the time of C-19. But we also talked about what's happened since then. The Chinese no longer have a disease going through their pork population and they're well stocked in pork. And in addition to that, they've reached out to South America and made best friends with the governments of Brazil and Argentina. And they are importing a lot of wheat and corn and soybeans from South America to the point where Brazil, which used to supply China with only 13% of their row crops, is now supplying them with over 43% of their row crops. And that relationship is just getting cozier and cozier. And we talked about the fact that if we were to impose another round of tariffs on China, it would be devastating for row crop farmers because since China is more prepared, not only would they be less likely to continue to buy row crops from Americans and from American farmers, they would also impose reciprocal tariffs of their own that would be devastating for row crop farmers in America. And guys, that's exactly what's happened. That's exactly what's happened. And again, this isn't an I told you so video, but it sure as hell is I wish you would listen video. Because on Friday, the Chinese told the 3 largest soybean distributors in this country that sell the beans that farmers raise in this country to China, you can no longer do business here. Your contracts are canceled, your licenses are canceled. In addition to that, they placed their own reverse tariffs on all different kinds of categories: pork, beef, corn, fowl, poultry. And remember what we said, those studies that have been done by the American Soybean Association, by the corn growers before the last election, that if these tariffs took place again, it would cost soybean farmers 37 billion metric tons of soybean sales to China and around the world. And with corn, it could cost as much as 80% of the corn sales in this country. And here we go. Top 3 soybean sales companies in this country, their licenses to sell to China have been canceled. Chinese are saying, we don't want your beans anymore. And now we face the same thing, the same threat that we warned would happen before the last election, happening now to corn as well. And we're talking billions of dollars worth of corn sales. There's no way a paltry $526 million ethanol fuel program sponsored by the Trump administration in Iowa is going to make up for the billions of dollars in lost corn sales we are going to have because of these tariffs. And look at what happened today. I got up this morning and while I was drinking my coffee up here at the farm, I listened to TikTok after TikTok of Trump supporters saying, well, he proved it today. The market's up 700 points. We're getting back all these gains. All these countries are coming to the table. And then what did we learn? When they asked the White House, you're claiming China wants to make a deal. Have you talked to China? No, we haven't. Have they said what kind of a deal they want? No, they haven't. Well, you're claiming South Korea wants a deal. Have you talked to them? Yes, we have. Have they talked about what kind of a deal they want? No, they haven't. And the truth of the matter is the market saw bullshit. And then what did the White House do? This afternoon, they announced that they're going to impose 104% tariffs on China, and the market lost every single one of the gains that it gained earlier today because there's chaos in the marketplace. People do not know how to plan for this, and this administration is woefully unprepared to do battle with the Chinese. I'm just telling you guys, this administration, when it comes to agriculture and rural policy, they're not playing chess. They're not playing checkers. They're sitting in the corner playing with themselves. There's no other way to put it, because everything they're doing from a policy perspective and an action perspective is failing. And now the chickens are coming home to roost. Why am I making this video? It's not to say I told you so. It's to say get off your butts. Republicans and independents and Democrats, all 3 of you. But I know the Democrats are doing the hard work. Get off your butts and make those calls to those Republican policy holders, those Republican office holders, those Republican politicians, and tell them to take back their power on these tariffs so that they can stop what's happening. There's no positive trend going on here, guys. I'm telling you right now, read the markets. Go out there and read the data from these conservative agricultural organizations that have no love for Democratic politicians that are telling us that shit is going south in a hurry. Farmers have already taken out their loans. They've already put a lot of their crops in the ground. If there are no sales and there are no subsidies, it will be too late for small farmers and ranchers. So get up, Republicans. You Republican farmers, get up and make those calls. Don't allow your cattlemen organizations to speak for you. Don't allow the Farm Bureau to speak for you. You make the calls yourselves to these politicians that you voted for and tell them you expect them to take their power over these tariffs back and to stop this freight train before it goes off the cliff. Because left to their own devices, this administration is not going to stop it. That's your call to action. Will you heed it? I don't know, but I hope so. Because if you don't, J.D. Vance and all of his friends at Acre Trader are going to make a hell of a lot of money come the end of this year when the harvest comes in and there's no place to sell it.
In what can only be called the most predictable response that every functionally breathing human throughout the world could have told us would happen, We kicked the dragon, then we ran away, and the dragon is still chasing us. Over the weekend, China decided that they didn't care about the fact that Trump canceled the tariffs on computers, smartphones, and toys, and decided to cancel their imports of U.S. beef. And these are targeted red state attacks on our agriculture industries that are very strategically done. It's over $2.5 billion of beef exports. And despite the fact that Republicans have stated over and over again over the course of the past week that China needs us more than we need them, they went ahead and replaced us with Australian beef. Now, which state has the most number of beef exports in our country, you might be asking? The answer would be Nebraska, which, if you recall, said a couple weeks ago that they have a $4 million budget shortfall. The cancellation of beef comes immediately after China already canceled soybean imports from the United States, which directly impacts the state of Indiana. Indiana exports approximately $2.6 billion worth of soybeans, and 60% of them go to China. China replaced us with Brazil. But everything, according to Republicans, is part of a plan. It's the art of the deal. Trump is a businessman and he's standing on business. The problem is that everyone from Republican politicians to Carolyn Levitt to some dude in his garage in Topeka, Kansas, has no clue what the plan is. 3 weeks ago, according to Republicans, the plan was to encourage more domestic manufacturing in the United States. 2 weeks ago, it was to lower interest rates and to end federal income tax. A week ago, it was to end our reliance on Chinese imports. What will the plan be this week? I'm sure we'll find out. And as a reminder, Donald Trump addressed the entire nation on March 6th and said this, and to our farmers, starting on April 2nd, it may be a little bit of an adjustment period. Just bear with me. So to our farmers, have a lot of fun. I love you too. It's all going to happen. He told us all that this would happen, but you didn't believe him. And that's why we're in the position we're in right now. Our trade partners are cutting us off, the US dollar is collapsing, and we have still yet to hear a single infrastructure plan from Donald Trump. And instead of creating an infrastructure plan to rescue our agriculture industries, he has spent 21 of his first 84 days golfing. That's 25% of his time, at a cost of approximately $30 million to taxpayers. He is golfing 5 times more currently than he did in his first term. And if he keeps this up, he will have cost American taxpayers $520 million by the end of his presidency. And just in case you were wondering about that math, that is more than half of the $1 billion in USDA federal grants that he canceled.
So y'all ready to talk about Acre Trader now? You didn't know Acre Trader is a company that invests in farms that are failing. And considering that most of our farms are going to be failing soon because they're going to lose their subsidies from the federal government, it's interesting that the number one donor into this company is none other than JD Vance. Isn't that weird? Basically, Acre Trader allows private investors to invest in failing farms and buy up the land together as a team, you know? Get together with your buddies. And good old JD Vance, yep, he heavily invested in this Acre Trader. I'm sure pulling the federal funds away from farmers doesn't have anything to do with that. That would be crazy, right? Like, why would the vice president invest in a company who was going to spend money to grab up farmland and take away their federal farming money so that way they could lose their farms? That would not. Come on, guys. Don't be ridiculous.